Good afternoon and welcome to Discernment Radio. I'm your host, Danielle Pailly.
And I'm your host, Cindy Riednauer. We are Discernment Radio, people and topics to enhance your life.
Sharon Ramel is a spiritual guide, shaman, and priestess who has offered spirit-based courses both online and in small groups since 2008. Her goal is to encourage spiritual awakening, leading to kindness and peace within each of us. Her background includes more than 25 years as a leader in the complementary healthcare profession and is a well-respected yoga and meditation teacher and healer. The topic today is Overcoming Fear of the Unknown, an interview with spiritual guide Sharon Ramel. Sharon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Cindy and Daniela, for inviting me. It's my honor to be here with you.
So, Sharon, for those who may not be familiar with you and your work, can you share a little more about yourself for our listeners?
Sure. I actually have a whole series of online shamanic courses on a great little platform called Udemy. And I've been there since February 2014, having taken the great leap into the unknown, shedding that fearful skin and showing myself to the world. And it's been an amazing journey for me, for my student friends, and a great leap of faith into whom we can become when we dare.
And you know what? I discovered you because of Udemy. Now, I had a very basic understanding of shamanism, but a fascination with it through college courses and practitioners and books. But I found it difficult to continue learning. And what I really love about your courses is you make shamanic studies accessible to everyone. Can you talk a bit about what inspired you to create them in the first place?
Oh my gosh, well that gets straight back to Great Spirit bugging me during my daily meditation. I have a meditation and yoga practice and it's very strong and it's kept me sane for so many years that I can't even imagine anymore. And I had discovered the Morné Key some years before, and Great Spirit was interfering with my meditation and my yoga and just kept on saying, put these rites online. And I'm like, go away. That's absolutely loopy. Go away. That it can't be done. And I was very well aware of the fact, of course, that Alberto Villoldo, who brought the rites out from South and Central America, or Peru specifically, back in 2006, had been under a lot of pressure from people going, you are debasing these rites, it's not right, it's not traditional, you had no right to do this. He himself served a 25-year apprenticeship and was told by the elders to take them forth and to spread them as far and wide as he could, because they believed that the world was in trouble and we really needed this wisdom. And Spirit is saying to me, you need to put these online. He isn't, you have to. And I'm like, but it's his job, surely. He was the one that was given the quest to share them. And they're tapping me on the shoulder going, and you are the one to put them online. And so I was like filled full of shivers and fear and going crazy. This is not possible. And then I grumpily turned around over my shoulder one day and went, show me how. You think it's a great idea, you show me. I was led to my laptop, opened it, and I put in something like how to teach online without any outgoing cost because, you know, I knew this was going to be an absolute failure. What would Great Spirit after all? And unbelievably, this place came up called Udemy where I could have a go and it wasn't going to cost me anything other than my time.
Right.
And so okay, Great Spirit, you win. You win. You were right. You showed me. And so then began the how on earth am I meant to do this? It's never been done anywhere on the planet. Even people like Sounds True were not doing online coaching in this way. Yeah. You could buy videos from them, but not in a one-to-one. It was, or you could go to the Shift Network. And even until last year, theirs was just an hour and a half talk. Yeah. Once a week for 14 weeks live, nothing like, trying to bring an interactive, personalized video format that people could consume that was also financially available. Because as Great Spirit was saying, there are so many people on the planet, they can't afford the hundreds of US dollars that the Shift Network or Sounds, all of these other people, they can't afford $4,500 to go climb a mountain in Peru or Nepal or any of the sacred places. They're stuck on a treadmill in New Delhi or in Sydney or in New York, and you can do this.
Absolutely.
So obviously that is how it started. So I had to, with Great Spirit's help and a whole heap of friends, I had 3 groups of people. One group had done the Munaiki, so they were very aware of the rites. Another were interested in spirituality but had not heard of the rites. And the third group were just interested in learning but were not particularly interested in spirituality. And I would make these videos and get them together, not separately, trot around to their homes, put videos on and stare at them. They'll stare at them. And they'd be going, yeah, we get it. Or no, change this. Or and so that was fairly universal across the groups. And that gave me a lot of confidence then to put it online.
That is amazing. And that's a universal thing that I keep hearing with people. It used to be things were so secretive. And you'd have to, beg the teacher to teach you. And across many traditions now, what I'm hearing is the world is changing. We need to educate as many people as possible.
And quickly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that in a nutshell is how I started. And I signed on to Udemy in December of 2013. And then late April 2014, I launched after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of work, re-recording, re-recording. Then I had the perfect start. I went on the Trans-Mongolian Railway for 2 months and dove deeply into shamanic culture in Mongolia, in Siberia, completely forgot about my course. Life does go on.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, you mentioned in there, you said something about being afraid at first.
Yes.
And so how did you get over that fear? Because we know so many people that have metaphysical talents, but they're always torn between having to live in the real world and exposing themselves that way.
Well, Great Spirit helped, of course, but what it actually got down to was that I have decided that whatever that real world is, that is not the real world. That is a world that has been manifested by greed, corruption, and all of the things that we human beings shouldn't really be. I decided that the real world is the world of love, of heart, of spirit, of talking to the trees, of honoring the stone people, of rekindling our relationships with the fairies, and remembering our cellular knowing that once upon a time that we walked gently upon this earth mother, that we were connected and respected all of the living things. Yes, we used her gifts and they used ours. And then the great imbalance happened, which has catapulted us. It started slowly, but it's been accelerating rapidly in recent years into Anthropocene and what we have become now. But I've decided this isn't the real world. This is not how it's meant to be. So I simply stuck my chest out. Luckily I'm flat-chested, so I can't knock anybody out. And thought, no, walk your talk. You just have to walk your talk. And I decided I didn't care if people ridiculed me, looked at me strangely. I was just going to do it. And then slowly I just became more and more sure of myself. And then I would get heartfelt reviews from student friends saying, I'm crying because you've helped me overcome X, Y, or Z, or I'm just really blown away because I thought I had an inner shaman and it was suppressed, or, thank you, I'm in New Delhi and I feel disconnected from my land and your gentle course has helped me reconnect. And even though I'm on the treadmill financially, I know that there's hope. And all of these things have really helped. And, of course, I have a supportive partner who, he used to joke that, he lives with the witch on the broomstick. He talks to trees. But, At the same time, though, it's a very loving and supportive relationship. And, of course, not having any disharmony at home helps you with your inner work and helps you to step out into the real world, whatever that may be for us.
So can you briefly describe to listeners what shamanism is and what a journey is?
Shamanism is the oldest known spiritual practice to man. It is pretty well similar everywhere I have traveled, from the Finnish shaman to the Swedish shaman way up north, through to the Chinese, Mongolian, South Central American, our Australian Aborigines. It is a deep and abiding respect for our Mother Earth and her natural cycles and the way they teach us to live in harmony. We don't need a high priest. We don't need a building. We don't need anybody with a collar around their neck or a pair of beads in their hand or even a drum in their hand to tell us what we know. But when we walk softly on our Earth Mother, the trees, they speak to us and we live in harmony. It is as simple as that. So wherever you are, it is the trees, it is the animals, it is the stones that call you. So that's the other thing, of course. A lot of us like to go on spiritual journeys. Australians love to go to India. Let's get lost in India for 2 years. I assume most Americans like to get lost in South and Central America for a while. And they go to find yourself. Well, in shamanism, you never lost yourself. You can't go anywhere to find yourself. Yourself is in your home, in your heart. And so that, in a nutshell, is a journey, is shamanism, a simple practice of honor. A journey is simply opening our senses, all of them. We've been pared down to our sight and thinking that our fingers only feel and our ears only hear and our taste buds only taste, whereas once we start to re-engage with all of our senses and expand them, we start to see the other realms. And through expanding our senses, we go into a transcendence and we travel either deep down in a root is a common one, down into the core of our Mother Earth, or we travel into the upper world, into the sky god realms beyond our star brothers and sisters, or we travel here in the middle world, but in a transcendent way, where we are in communication with our tree spirits, with our fairies, with our elves, with whomever the folk are. They're not always little people, by the way. Some of them are darn tall. We've got some market here at our farm that are taller than trees. So it's when we have that communication once again with all of the other spirits, and we will commonly take a spirit guide with us. Many people, particularly as kids, will dream of elk, of wolves, of bears, of dingoes here in Australia, of echidnas, or they'll have a deceased spirit grandmother or, great long lost aunt that they never even met. They will be very aware that they have guides with them until the education system beats them up.
Of course.
And then they kind of lose that around 7, 9 and, forced to live in this so-called real world. But many still will retain, most of us will retain that feeling somewhere within us. So when we embark on our shamanic journey, we call back in those guides. We get to know them again. And they provide us safe passage. They give us the messages. They steer us through the other worlds in perfect love and perfect trust so that we may receive the messages, the metaphors. And often it's a metaphor. You'll see a feather falling, you'll trip on a rock, you'll dive into a cool water, you'll just feel the winds whistling around you, and it's up to you, in communication with your spirit animals, your guides, to sit back, to rest, and to allow the messages to come through to you. So it is very simply a transcendent state to slip into the other worlds, basically upper, middle, and lower, for information that may assist you or another. Some cultures have 5 different worlds. Our Aboriginals will separate it into 11 seasons, and they actually will journey with the specific seasons. But that's a very expanded form of it, and I certainly don't have the right to teach that because they've not gifted me that. They may do in the future, however. So that in a nutshell is shamanism and a shamanic journey. They are tools for life.
That's a great description, and I've done a number of journeys, and I always tell people without mind-altering substances, because some of the some of the stuff that comes up is so weird. They're like, "What were you on?" I'm like, "Nothing." It was 8:00 in the morning, and I was wide awake. So,
yeah, exactly.
But what I really like about your classes is you lead with love, not fear. And I've studied with practitioners who will say, never journey to the middle world unless you're a shaman, because bad things are going to happen to you. You don't know what's talking to you.
Yes.
Can you explain where some of these cautionary tales come from, and do we need to take precautions?
Who's afraid of the big bad wolf?
A lot of people.
A lot of people. I think a lot of that comes from their own base fears and not trusting themselves. Yes, of course, you can travel down any street on the planet and you can get yourself into trouble. Yeah. You can go into any of the world's upper, middle, or lower world and you can get lost. There's no doubt about it. You should prepare. Every journey has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so long as you approach it in love and trust and are prepared, you will be safe. However, if you just go, and this is particularly where I think some of the psychedelic medicine people can lead people on some strange journeys indeed, you are not in control of that. And often when you do that, your body, mind and soul is not ready for those experiences. And those people go away on their those retreats, and they do go into the middle world, they go into the upper and lower worlds, but they're doing it psychedelically in a body, mind and soul that is not prepared, it's not pure. And so therefore your own demons are then coming back and gnawing at you. And you are not in an emotional, physical or soul state to be able to deal with that at that time. I personally believe that if we approach anything with love, you can see, unfriendly things in the middle world. Of course you can. You can also see them in the lower and the upper worlds, but they are simply manifestations of something reflecting back to you. But when you prepare and go in with love and you're with your guides, you have power over that. And you can go, I'm not ready for that. Yes, I see you over there beyond that mountain in that cave, but I'm not ready to go that yet. And you can check in with your guides and they'll go, yeah, no, that's for another time. We're just here. We're actually just here because we're looking for a new career path at the moment, or we're here because we're trying to resolve your relationship issue. We're not there to resolve that event that happened 10 years ago. We're not ready for that yet. And so in that way, it is totally and absolutely safe. You approach guides, you approach people whom you see in your journeys, and you have been blessed by the gatekeepers stepping forward, and you ask, are you here? Are you my friend? Are you here to give me advice? And ask them with purity, and they will be honest. And if not, thank them for meeting you, being respectful, and move on. Sometimes people are not respectful in their journeys because they're so caught up racing around trying to find who's the spirit that's going to help me today, that they're not respectful.
And they forget to say thank you after.
And they forget to say thank you after. We must always live in respect. And so when we do that, when we go in with love, not fear, there is nothing to fear because we are protected. And it is the same when we go out on our city streets. So, for example, I was staying in New York a few years ago, and I got out of the wrong bit of the subway. And it's after a late show on Broadway, and I was like, oh, yes, I remember seeing that very rough area before, and there's all the street people there, and it was pretty violent. This was even in the middle of the day, and there were lots of brawls, and I thought, well, what are my options here? I can see the hotel. I know that I will eventually, I've gotten out of the wrong subway. And I thought, walk without fear, you will not be touched. Spirit told me. And so here I am walking very much aware in the middle world, But in the real middle world, but with my spirit guides with me, I walked right by them, brawls, people shooting up, ice heads, all kinds of things, completely enveloped with love, and no, it was all good. And then the following day, a couple of people came up to me and they're going, "Hey, Whitey, what were you doing here last night?" I'm like, "I've got out of the wrong subway." And they're like, "You know it can be very dangerous around here, don't you?" And I went, "Yes." But, you know, I protected. So you can be protected here and there. Often it is a state of mind. That probably was a bit of a segue away from what you were wanting from the main story, but
no, I actually have a similar New York story. I did the exact same thing when I was living in New York, and there were some men coming toward me, and I knew instantly something bad was going on. And out of nowhere, I didn't call a cab. It crossed like 6 lanes of traffic, pulled up in front of me, and opened the door and said, "Get in." And there was no traffic, no cars, no nothing, except these men coming toward me. And I'm like, "Thank you, whoever's looking out for me," and got in and drove away.
Absolutely. I mean, that is, again, another great example of trusting your guides, and in perfect love, I see this situation, I am protected.
Great. That's a wonderful explanation, too, of using love and not fear. That is one of the best I've ever heard. So what advice would you give someone who perhaps comes from a more traditional religious or spiritual practice who wants to examine some lesser-known practices?
Well, shamanism is not going to interfere with them. There's no dictates here. I have actually many people from quite strict religious faith wanting to, or actually learning shamanism from me. Some of them change their names so that they won't be known within their communities, and that is perfectly, you know, they need to hide because they tell me where they're living, and I'm like, "Ooh, yes, that's a very interesting area of the United States. I've heard about that." But they know that the pathway and the spiritual thing that they're on is not working for them, and they want to discover more. And so I encourage them to. Shamanism actually doesn't interfere with those practices. It doesn't tell you that they are right, wrong, or somewhere in between. It simply is. And they often, you know, they will sometimes message me. They don't answer assignments. They don't go on the Q&A. Again, that's the fear thing from them. However, they will message going, "Wow, this is really cool. Wow, I've got as much power as the priest." And I'm like, "You have more power because you're being pure. You've got, you are a direct conduit. You are spirit." And they're going, "No, I'm a human." I'm going, "No, you're a spirit manifest in human form. You have as much in your heart to give to your family, to your community, as any person who is involved as the head or heads of churches. You have as much." And they're like, "You sure?" And I'm like, "Absolutely you do." Go way, way back before the formalization of churches. Every family had its, I'm talking ancient history now, ancient Rome and ancient Greece, they all had their own little deities that they worshipped. It could be a child, a mum, a dad, an uncle, a grandma would lead daily devotions down at springs, at power trees. There were no churches, yet they were an intensely spiritual people, and they had their own ways. The church, in many ways within ancient history, only came together to control people, and it's done it beautifully.
I know. I was going to say, you're giving people back their power that they had all along but didn't know they had because they were told to give it to someplace else. So. Absolutely.
Yeah, you give it up to somebody else. "Oh, we'll look after you. We'll look after you." Well, you actually, no, your heart knows. Your heart knows your truth. Yeah. Even doesn't matter how many layers of grief, how many layers of indoctrination have been welded over your heart knows. Somewhere in there's a glimmer of light that is wanting to shine its light. And even if that is just to your immediate family or your partner or, your best friends that you just love because they are gorgeous, warts and all. Doesn't have to be a big number of people, but your heart knows. Yeah. And so I say to those people, yes, come, for this practice does not dictate nor interfere with any belief that you may hold.
Now, we've been talking a lot about shamanism because that's my personal interest, but you offer a number of courses on Udemy. Can you talk a little bit about what people can find there?
Okay, well, yes. Well, there's the 9 Rites of the Morning Key was the very first course that I put up, which were the rites that Alberto Villoldo was entrusted to bring out here to the West. So then I went on to... There's a vision quest using Shamanic Journeying, Fairy Shamanism, which was very much a heartfelt one, and that is filmed entirely here on the farm. In different places of the farm, I would be called by spirit. It's channeled. There's no script for it, and that. Talk about fear. That was super scary to do, and I'm like, "Are you sure?" And there's at the end of one. I've just done a journey with the air spirits around here, and I even say to people, oh my gosh, I hope you get this because I haven't got a clue what I just said to you. Because sometimes they would give me the bones of what I was about to do, ceremony, but in this instance they were like, no, just go up on that hill and leave it to us. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
That's trust. I've led some meditations where I think it's going to go one way and it goes in a completely different direction. And somebody will ask me about it later and I don't know what I said.
Absolutely.
It's just
so I have a shamanic journeying class to the classic shamanic journeying class to the middle or to the lower, middle and upper worlds. But I also include transmutation, and it's far more than just a shamanic journeying class because it really allows you to be stripped down to your bones and rebuild yourself anew, which is very empowering for people. 4 weeks ago, I released a master journeying class to really help people to be able to journey on behalf of others. So that's presented in quite a different way. Most of the lectures I've contained to around the 10-minute mark because I'm trying to give people the bones so that they can hang their own individuality of it and grow them from there, and to teach them how to be disciplined enough to gather information on behalf of others, or animals or trees or a part of the planet, anywhere that in particular is looking for healing. And I have a new one birthing in the wings with a shamanic artisan drummer from Peru, and we are crafting a course, that's my next call, on the call of the drum, how to create and craft your own drum with ceremonies to consecrate and work with your drum as we make our ritual drum together. I have no idea how that one's going to flow yet because...
Now, the Shamanic Journeying for other people, is that online and available? So I can sign up
yes, that's on
right after
Udemy,
this call?
Yes.
Excellent.
Master Shamanic, it's called Master Shamanic Journeying.
Cindy and I will be there.
Yes, and do you have to take these in any special order?
Well, the Mastering Shamanic Journeying, I do not teach you how to journey. So unless you already understand the middle, upper, lower worlds and have got some understanding about transmutation and transfiguration and all of these types of things, you will struggle. You can do it, but it is marked as intermediate on the coursework there. You must have an understanding of journeying because it's the bones to hang a bigger picture off of, I hope that makes sense to people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And let me just say, I have never met you in person, and there are very few people on the planet that I would go through a dismemberment journey with. But I went through it, and I was like, I'm a little nervous, but I'm going to do it. And so you do an amazing job of developing a trust, and you spent like 3 lessons saying this is why we're doing it, to alleviate people's fears, because my first response was, ew.
I don't want that happen to me. Oh my God, a raven picking me down to my bones. Oh, the sheep in the paddock gnawing at me. How disgusting. But it's amazing, isn't it?
So the next question I'm going to ask you in conjunction with the fact that in the last couple of days, I had a giant frog jump out of my toilet, and then 2 days later, I had a hawk hit my window and fall to the ground, stunned, and then finally fly away. And then yesterday I noticed that my house is being enveloped in spider webs. So I'm going to ask that in conjunction about how can a spirit-based course be applied to everyday life?
Very simply, those three, my gosh, do they have some stories and vibrational messages that they are trying to share with you? So just go into a meditative state and they will share their lessons with you. Shamanism, things like this can be used so well. They can be giving you markers about where not to go today. There might be something, so the hawk may have been stunned, for example. You might be wanting to fly off, for example, and it's just warning you that just be careful. Maybe you should book this flight, not that flight. The spiders are maybe trying to, with their beautiful webs, they're trying to maybe wrap you in their fine gossamer to protect you. But these are your messages, they're your symbols. And what shamanism teaches you is to go inside and look for the message, because the message is vibrating in there. These external manifestations are simply trying to call you to the fact that there is something to be shared, and it's your knowledge. So this is the great thing about not giving away your power to anybody else. And as you both know, I spend so much time telling people, don't ask me the answers. Yes, I can have a great guess at them, and I can look at you and I can be pretty darn accurate. But how much more empowering is it for you to actually know that you know the answers? Surrender, and they are actually there for you. So you've been given some fabulous little messages to work with, and some pretty striking ones, I might say. They're not actually that little.
Yes.
Oh, so from a business perspective, an all-online business, you touched on a little bit. What kind of challenges did you need to overcome as an entrepreneur?
Looking at myself, listening to myself. They are two very big ones when you start out, losing all of that. And it was very difficult to get a toehold. And what I discovered for me with this spiritual business was that I had to be the best me, and I made myself available. I became my students' friends, and we're walking together. You'll notice I'm very, very inclusive with everything I do, and I am there for people. Whereas commonly with these online things, you sign up, you pay the money, there's an instructor somewhere on the planet going, you beauty, there's some money in my pocket. And that is the only relationship they have with their cohort. Yeah. Whereas me, I make it a rich and wealthy experience so that people trust me. And they want to be with me, and they want to learn, and they enjoy it. And I don't just put course after course after course on any old thing, read a book and do it. It has to be stuff that has come from the heart. I think to have a genuine spiritual business, it has to be heart-driven. However, the toughness of it is that we live in this world, and so we have to find that balance. And so, Udemy are always going, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And I'm like, because I don't know anything about it, and it's outside of I'm not going to do that. And they're like, yes, but if you push hard here. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't feel right. How can I push hard and maintain my integrity? And they're going, yeah, okay.
You've just defined spiritual practices.
You have to find your own way to do it.
I think we all struggle with that because I teach meditation classes. I taught yoga for a number of years, and it always feels weird to me to take money for giving spiritual guidance. It's one of those things that you're constantly doing a check-in. Am I acting with integrity? So
the way I think I separate that is the gifts of the courses are free. The money I receive is the gift of being there for them. So I in my mind, I separated in that. So for you, it would be the yoga class, the asana, any part of the limbs of the yoga, or vinyasa I do, any part of that yoga practice, I'm teaching you these are universal gifts. However, that 10 minutes before and that 30 minutes after the class where you're picking my brains and you're wanting to know X, Y, and Z and a little bit of extra help, that's what you're paying me for. That's how I turn it around go, the courses are basically for free. It's all of the extra, it's those extra things that you're paying me for.
Interesting.
And that's my head, and that would, that worked for me. So I don't know. It's a thought.
That's a good thought.
So for someone else who is itching to start their own business but may be afraid to take the plunge, what advice would you give them?
Just do it. There. Absolutely just do it. What's the worst thing that could happen? Then you're not going to go in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, oh my God, I should have done that. Why didn't I hear that so often from people? I should have done this. I should have done that. So my Vision Quest course, 30 years ago I wanted to do this, and then 20 years ago I could have done that, and then 5 years, and then this week I could do this, but. Oh, God, scrap the word but and just find some time to do it. Even if you can only devote, put aside, everybody's got half an hour a week that they can put aside to dedicate to something that they genuinely want to do. Put aside the time and see how it manifests. And if it is meant to be, it will unfold and it will work. If you're finding, constant brick walls being built and you're bashing your head against the wall, it's either the way you're approaching it or maybe it's not meant to be, but you've at least had a go at doing it. And by having a go at doing it, you can go, okay, I put myself out there. It didn't work this time. Maybe it was because of X or Y, or maybe it was because of Z, but I'll step back and I will revisit it. And the other thing, of course, is work powerfully with the gifts that we have. So seed something on the new moon, work, look at the seasons. Okay, it's springtime over there in the United States. So great time to be birthing projects and to be really working with the warmth and the flowers that are all coming into blossom. So make sure that you're doing everything and you've got the nature working with you. So little things like that, I think, all have a great benefit. Or if it's midwinter and it's freezing and you can't get outside, maybe that's time to hunker down and do the research, to be the groundwork. There's always times of the year where you can actually do it. Simply rocking around the planet going, oh yeah, well I could have done that but I didn't, that's not good enough. You've sold yourself short. And then what? You're going to be dying and going, well, I had all these great things that I could have done but I didn't. And it's often because of some really silly reasons, and fear is one of them.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Now, we could talk to you all day, but we know that you actually have a farm in addition to all this other work.
We do.
So to wrap up, let's just ask you, where can people go to learn more about your work?
Well, I've got several websites. One of them is spiritualfusionnetwork.com. Okay. You can find me on Udemy. Just look up Sharon Ramel. Pretty simple name, camel with an R. But if you just look up religion and spirituality on Udemy, I'm one of their top instructors. And all you have to do is scroll down and there's pictures of the top instructors and there I am.
Sharon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's been my honor to come out to play with you on this beautiful autumnal morning here from Orchid Valley in Western Australia.
Thank you for listening to Discernment Radio. If you like the show, please click to follow.